Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فإذا قيل لهم لا تفسدوا في الأرض قالوا إنما نحن مصلحون ألا إنهم هم المفسدون ولكن لا يشعرون. وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا كما آمن الناس قالوا أنؤمن كما آمن السفهاء ألا إنهم هم السفهاء ولكن لا يعلمون. وإذا لقوا الذين آمنوا قالوا آمنا إذا خلوا إلى شياطينهم قالوا إنا معكم إنما نحن مستهزئون الله يستهزئ بهم ويمدهم في طغيانهم يعمهون. أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى فما ربحت تجارتهم وما كانوا يفعلون ربحت تجارتهم وما كانوا مهتدين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. Okay. Trying to fix this screen here. Just 1 second. Please. Okay, so okay, so we last week we went through the ayahs about وإذا قيل لهم لا تفسدوا في الأرض قالوا إنما نحن مصلحون, that the people who were causing corruption in the earth, they were saying they were really peacemakers, and we kind of explained some of the details with that and how TMOA in particular, how those ayahs apply to them. So in this week, we're going to go from ayah number 13 to number 16, inshallah. As Allah says in ayah number 13, Surah Al-Baqarah, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا كما آمن الناس قالوا أنؤمن كما آمن السفهاء ألا إنهم هم السفهاء ولكن لا يعلمون. When they are told to believe as the others have believed, they reply, we believe as the fools believe. Indeed, it is they who are fools, but they do not know. And this is talking about, as we talked about last week, this is the munafiqeen, right? The munafiqeen are the ones who are the main characters in these ayahs. However, they said we're not calling any specific people munafiqeen, but the munafiqeen do have certain traits and certain characteristics, and we have to identify them, make sure that we don't have any of them, and also we need to identify them to protect ourselves from the munafiqeen. So we have to look at these characteristics and find, and when we see people with all of these characteristics coming together, we can identify it and protect ourselves, because the munafiqeen are, well, they are the most dangerous people to the Muslims, because they look like Muslims, they feel like Muslims, they sound like Muslims, act like Muslims, but the problem is that in reality they do more harm than the Muslims than anyone else. So what does Tafseer Ibn KATHEER talk about this ayah in particular? That when they say believing, as when Allah says in the ayah, to believe, and they say, should we believe like the fools believe? When they're talking about the fools, the munafiqeen, this is who they're talking about, and it's what Ibn Kathir explains. Believe just as the believers believe in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, resurrection after death, paradise and hellfire, and obey Allah and His messenger by heeding the commandments and avoiding the prohibitions. So, what Allah commands you to do, and what Rasulullah, Allah and His messenger, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, prohibit you from doing, avoid doing that. So, when you start to see things that are clearly, Allah said, don't do this, or Rasulullah said, don't do that, and people are doing the opposite and explaining it away, or going against it, this is one of the traits of the hypocrite. So when you see that, it's not saying the person or the people are full-blown hypocrites, but it is a strong possibility that they could be, because this is one of the traits. They say, shall we believe as the fools believe? And the Tafseer goes on to say, so since they are so thoroughly ignorant, the hypocrites are unaware of their degree of deviation. They're unaware of their degree of deviation, and ignorance in such situations are more dangerous and more severe, and a more severer case of blindness and further from the truth than those who are aware. So the person who is, why is this more dangerous? The person who does not know. And think about this trait when we look at the, in particular, the group TMOA that we were, a lot of us were a part of. Think about this. Why is it more severe that when a person is an ignorant person, a fool, as opposed to someone who is knowledgeable, but they're a deviant? And you say the person who's knowledgeable, they know the Sunnah, they know the Quran, but they're still following misguidance. They're still on a deviant path. How are they in a better position than the complete ignoramus? They don't know their own aqidah. They don't know the real the details of the seven sultans and some of these other beliefs they believe in. The sultan of seven sultans of Fakr, and all these different things that they have. Risala Ruhi, these different books. They don't know the details or have the knowledge of their own deviant beliefs. They don't even know. They're just following something that they were born upon, or some friend or father or relative introduced them to, and they're just following along with it. This person is more in a worse position because they don't even know what they're supposed to believe, what they think they believe, nor do they know the truth. So they don't know the Quran and the Sunnah, and they don't even really know their own beliefs. They're just steeped in this belief that they have, and they're just running with it. So the person who's the deviant, who actually knows the Quran and Sunnah, but they're just deviant, they don't want to follow it. They want to practice these innovations and these extra stuff because it makes them feel good or whatever it might be. At least they can find their way back to the truth. They know what the truth is. So if Allah decides to guide them, they could find their way back. Of course, all guidance is up to Allah. But the person who is the complete ignoramus, they don't know either way. They don't know what's for them, and they don't know what's against them. So they cannot articulate their own position, nor can they articulate the position of the people who are telling them they're wrong as to why they are incorrect either. So they can't come to us and say, you say follow the Quran and Sunnah, this is why you're wrong. They can't even articulate it. They can't bring any ayahs from Quran. They can't bring anything from the Sunnah, and even from their own beliefs, they can't even articulate those things. So this is one of the things where in the Tafseer Ibn Kathir says they are even in a more severe position. Moving on, the next ayah, in ayah number 14, what does Allah say? وَإِذَا لَقَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. When they meet the believers, they say, we believe. Okay, so when they meet the people, and listen to this carefully, when they meet the people, the other Muslims, they say, we believe. But when alone with their evil associates, they say, we are definitely with you, we were only mocking. So you might say, okay, this is clear-cut, pure munafiq. This is pure nifaq right here. How does this apply to the people in TMOA or these cult groups or whatever? They say they're Muslims. Are you saying that they're munafiqs? One of the traits of the munafiq is, of course, the munafiq always wants a two-way go. They want to be able to, and one of the Mufassirin, they explain that even the word nifaq comes from a term that's like the hole of a lizard, like a lizard's hole, right? In the desert, the lizard has a hole where, like, you go into the lizard's hole and you can escape. They have two exits, right? So even if something chases them into the hole, they can go out the back door. Like, they have two exits to where they can go, and they have entries and two ways that they can get out. So they're never really going to be trapped, right? So if they are with the Muslims, the main body of Muslims, they can be like, oh yeah, you know, we need to raise some funds for our masjid, you know, or we need some funds to help build our road or something like that. They can go and, you know, use their facilities. Oh, we just had someone die here. Can we use your facilities to wash the body, and can we use your hearse to bring the body and these things? So they can easily come and say, yeah, and present themselves as part of the main body of the Muslims. But when they are back with their people, and this says, when they're back with their shayatinihim, they say, we were only mocking. We've seen this with our own eyes. We've heard it. Them mocking us, mocking other people. Even when we're there, they would mock other people, how off it they were and how they didn't know, and this and other, and basically wouldn't even want to pray with them or behind them, did not find them to be real Muslims at all. And this is one of the traits. This is clearly what we have seen very, very clearly, to where even to the point where they even do things like, have even, swindled, if I can use that word, money from other Muslims, usurped money from other Muslims, and this is the type of thing that they do. When they are with the other Muslims, the main body of Muslims, it's all, we're just Muslims and we're just trying to practice Islam and have this front. But when they're alone with their shayatinihim, they're mocking them and saying, we're not with them at all. We're better. We're cut above. We're something else. We're not even, they're not with us. Now you would say, well, you call these people shayatinihim. Even the Tafseer talks about, and Ibn KATHEER explains that this shayatinihim can be JINNS, okay, and it can be human beings. Any people, any beings that cause corruption and deviance and mischief on the earth, they are considered to be shayatinihim. That's why in Surah Nas, what does it say? Min al-jinnati wan-nas. We're seeking refuge in Allah from these people who whisper in the hearts and souls of men, from min al-jinnati, from the jinn kind, wan-nas, and from the mankind. So are we saying that these people are jinns? No, but they could be shayateen if they are doing this type of thing. So moving on, in the next ayah, what does Allah say? Allahu yastahzi'u bihim wa yamudduhum fi tughyanihim ya'mahun. Allah is throwing their mockery back at them, leaving them to continue wandering blindly in their defiance. So they are thinking that they're mocking the regular Muslims, the people who are following the Quran and the Sunnah, and the people who are doing the things that the main body of Muslims are doing. They mock them. They, see them as something other than what they are. And so Allah is saying that He extends them. وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. And so He extends them, يَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ, in their transgression, in their deviance, يَعْمَهُونَ, so they can wander blindly in it. So Allah is doing this to them because of the corruption. Allah increases them in it. So sometimes when we look at them and we say, man, these people are just getting worse and worse. Their beliefs are getting worse. The extreme nature and extreme lengths that they go through. And, even we were talking earlier today, some of the things that we have heard and seen and been told, the things that these people have said they would do, the extent to which they would go for their community, for their sheikh, for their murshid, these things are extreme, just deviance and misguidance and things. And it's like, how can someone even get to that level where they would think to do something like that? They would think that they would get that far away from anything Islamic and thinking that Islam. How did they get so blindly and steeped in this deviance and misguidance? But this ayah is an example of how Allah does it to them, where يَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ, extends them into their transgression, and so يَعْمَهُونَ, so they're blindly just deep into it, following it. And while you can see clearly, man, they are not even close. This is nowhere near Islam. They don't realize it because Allah does this to them. In the Tafseer, Ibn Kathir explains that in the misguidance and disbelief that has encompassed them, causing them to be confused and unable to find a way out of it. So if Allah does it to them, they're not going to be able to find a way out. This is because Allah has stamped their hearts, sealed them, and blinded their vision. Therefore, they do not recognize the truth. Next thing is in ayah number 16, Allah says, أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى فما ربحت تجارتهم وما كانوا مهتدين. They are the ones who trade guidance for misguidance, but this trade is profitless, and they are not rightly guided. So Ibn Kathir explains that he said they pursued misguidance and abandoned the guidance. So how many times have we told people, okay, this is the sunnah, this is what the ayah says, and they will literally tell you, my sheikh said such and such, or that's just a hadith, or my sheikha knows what she's doing, XYZ. They will abandon the guidance and pursue the misguidance. And this is what Ibn Kathir is saying. They pursue misguidance and abandon the guidance. So they will leave the ayah that you give them. They will leave the sunnah that you give them. They will leave the Islamic precedent that has been set for over 1400 years behind. Leave it behind and follow this specific misguidance. Qatada, go back one. Sorry, I missed one slide up. Let me go back. About to say, what was it? What it was. Okay, yeah, here we go. Qatada said they preferred deviation to misguidance, and by Allah, I have seen them. Now, listen to this. If this is not, now this is the Tafseer Ibn Kathir. Okay, this is Tafseer Ibn Kathir, in which I'm reading from. This is not. I didn't think of this and type this up and say, let me make this fit. This is Tafseer Ibn Kathir. I believe it was written in the 7th century. So this is almost 800 years ago, right? This is a long time ago. Okay, hundreds, almost 1,000 years, right? Look at what Qatada said, which Ibn Kathir is saying. Qatada says, they prefer deviance to misguidance. By Allah, I have seen them leaving guidance for deviation, leaving the jama'ah, the community of believers, for sex. For sex, these are like groups, cults, right? Leaving the jama'ah for the community of believers, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, for sex. Leaving safety, safety and the Sunnah for fear, and leaving the Sunnah for innovation. Now, I read this and I was just smiling. I mean, one of us could have, I'm sure in the conversation that we have had with our companions and friends and all these people, we've said these same things. And here it is, almost 1,000 years ago, Ibn Kathir and some of the Salaf al-Salih who came before us are literally explaining this exact thing, what they're doing today. So it's just, interesting. These ayahs, some people, they want to say that these are just for the hypocrites. And they are. And a lot of the traits of the hypocrites are found in the people of innovation, in these cults, in these extreme groups and sects, because they have to have some of these characteristics. Otherwise, if they didn't have any of these characteristics, then they would be part of the main body of the Muslims. They would be part of the main body of the Muslims. They wouldn't be able to do that, because one thing as they do a lot of this pretending to be, as Allah says, وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا. When they're with the people who believe, the main body of Muslims, they say, oh, yeah, we believe. But when they're alone, they are saying something different, and they're making fun of the people, and they actually believe something completely different, as we'll go over in a second. But this was the ayahs and some basically giving some context in what the Tafsir Ibn Kathir is explaining in regards to these ayahs. But to finish up a few of these points here that I was just looking at as I was going through this, and these are the things, as far as I'm concerned, that I have seen, that I have taken away from. Now, in ayah number 13, when Allah says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ, when Allah says to them, when it is said to them, believe as the Muslims believe, as the main body of Muslims believe, what do they say? قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ, should we believe as the fools believe? And without a doubt, if you look at TMOA specifically, the people who have left TMOA and said that y'all are deviants, or we're going to be normal, regular Muslims, they see us as fools. Why? Because if they thought we were intelligent and we were rightly guided, they would have followed us out and left the group. They're sticking to the group because they're saying, you're a fool for leaving. I've been told this basically in pretty much almost verbatim, basically. Until you, a friend of mine, he told me, until you get back on the path, till you get back on the path. I said, I'm going to follow the Quran and the Sunnah. I'm following whatever Allah and His Messenger say, that's what I'm following. And he told me straight up, we ain't friends no more. I know this man my whole life. We're not friends no more. Basically, until you get back on the path, don't contact me. What path was he talking about? The path of TMOA, Mubarak Jilani, Seven Sultans, Risala Ruhi, all that stuff wrapped into one. That's the path he was saying. Now, when I say they see us as fools for following the Quran and the Sunnah, then who do they, the hypocrites at the time when they were saying this, they said the people were fools that were the Sahaba. The Sahaba who are the people who Rasulullah himself taught them the Sunnah and showed them the Sunnah. They learned it, followed it, and passed it on to us. And that's exactly what we're saying we're trying to do. We're trying to do exactly as if Rasulullah was here with us and we are following him to the T. Whatever we know to do that is correct, we're trying to do that. Of course, we come up short, but that's what we're trying to do. And for that, they say we are fools, just like the hypocrites called them, the Sahaba in the past, called them fools for doing what? They called them fools for following the Quran and the Sunnah to the T. They say, look at these people, they're fools for that. So they're saying we are fools for following the Quran and the Sunnah. But really, a bigger fool, the biggest fool would be someone who would think that they would have the Quran at their fingertips, the Sunnah at their fingertips, but instead would follow something outside of that, thinking that it will get them closer to Allah. When Allah selected the perfect person and empowered him with the ability to convey his message perfectly, exactly how he wanted to convey it to us, and it was passed down to us. Allah surrounded him with the Sahaba, those people who were the best of our generation, our ummah. After Rasulullah, the Sahabas were the best. And there's ranks between them, but the point is those were the best people, better than anyone that came after. But we are fools for following that. Allahumma musta'an. What can ever lead to a higher status than following the Quran and the Sunnah? You know, we had a childhood companion, right? He would always talk about status and who had a higher status, lower status, and all this stuff, all this Sufi, Tariqa stuff, and all these different things. And they would talk about status all the time. But they look at themselves, right, and TMOA, as opposed to us or people who have left the community, or people who are just in Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the main body of Muslims, the people who follow the Quran and the Sunnah, and those rightly guided generations, understanding of the Sahaba, right? They say that our status is higher than that. You even have people say, okay, you know, those people, R2F and those Muslims, they follow the Sharia. If they want to follow the Sharia, that's fine, but I have something else. And so they think they're following something else. And if they're following something else, knowingly, that means they think it's higher and better. But what can lead to a higher status than following the Quran and Sunnah? Why do I say that? Because think of the greatest person that ever lived on the face of the earth, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What did Aisha radiallahu anha say? He was the walking, talking Quran. Basically, he was in the embodiment of the Quran and the Sunnah. The Sunnah is, how did we get it? Based on the Sahabas delivering it to us and preserving it and coming down. So those people, Rasulullah and the companions, are the people with the highest status in our ummah, and that's all they did. The only thing they did was follow the Quran and the authentic Sunnah. That's it. You can't say, oh, they had a tariqah. Where? Name one Sahaba that was following tariqah, this tariqah or that tariqah from authentic sources. Wallahi, you won't find it. It doesn't exist. Name any of the companions or some that had, some sort of seven sultan or Risala Ruhi or any of this stuff. You won't find it. So you're following something that, wallahi, it can't. That's not even logical to think that you would gain a higher status than the companions or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by following something other than him, or even be in a group with him. If you didn't even follow him, you're following someone else. It doesn't even make sense. We talked about the ignorant deviant is in a worse spot than the knowledgeable deviant, because the ignorant person, they don't even know where they're lost at. Even though the knowledgeable person, maybe they would get a worse punishment because they know all the details. The point is, the ignorant deviant is in a worse position because they don't even know where to start, where to begin. We talk about the fact that they don't know, they don't know their own beliefs. They don't know their own beliefs. This thing is cut off right here. They don't know their own beliefs, nor do they know the Sunnah. And this is something that I thought about a couple of days ago, but here you are. If you think about this, since Adam alayhi salam was created and sent to earth, when Allah said, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً, that Allah said, I'm going to send a Khalifa to the earth. When he sent Adam down to earth, him and his wife, they did not believe in the seven sultans. They didn't tell their children about the seven sultans. They didn't know nothing about Mubarak Jalani or Sheikha Noor Zainab Adams or any of these people that y'all are believing wholeheartedly, fully in. None. And no one has known about any of these people until, hang on, the 1980s. Okay? As far as this group and this belief, you have Mubarak Jalani, who was part of another group. He was part of another Sufi group, a follower, then broke off and made his own group. Before that, no one believed that Mubarak Jalani was one of the seven sultans. No one believed any of that. So since 1980 something, maybe, okay, you want to say 70s something, okay, whatever. Since at least the late 70s, no one on the face of the earth believes what TMOA believes. No one, no Muslim, no KATHEER, no Sikh, Buddhist, Christian, no human being on the face of the earth believes exactly what they believe about their religion. It's not Islam. About their religion. No one believes it. And guess what? Nobody on the face of the earth after they're gone will believe it. These people will die out. They're not growing, they're not increasing. There's other deviant groups, but they all have their own seven sultan. This is not something unique to TMOA. They make up these seven sultan groups are many, and they all have their other one. So not a single Muslim on the face of the earth that claims to be Islam will believe what they believe, except for them. A few people in America, in trailer parks and stuff, no one else. This is a microscopic amount of Muslims on the face of the earth. Now compare that to the ahadith, that when Rasulullah talks about the size of the ummah of Rasulullah, it dwarfs the other ummahs of the other messengers. It is several times larger than even the ummah of Musa alayhi salam, which is the next largest. So the people who attribute themselves to Islam and Muslims and follow the Sunnah and the way of Rasulullah is an enormous amount. None of them believe these beliefs that this group has, TMOA has. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, and if you say that all of these people are fools because they don't believe this and none of them believe it, and you're the only one, a handful of people. If this doesn't make you realize, hey man, my beliefs don't match up. No one, no Muslim, if you explain everything that you believe about Mubarak Jilani and even what Sheikh Noor is talking about now, none of them will believe it. I mean, none of them will say that you're okay. Yeah, you're on the right track. This is part of Islam. Most people will say you're kufar. Most of them will tell you straight to your face, this is kufr. This is not Islam. I mean, to me, it's amazing. But yeah, that's basically the extent. And you know, they as far as the abandoning the sunnah for the innovation, as we've covered that many times. But these ayats about especially how they go with the Muslims and intermingle and deal with them when they need to, when they want to, when they need money, when they need services, when they are down and out. But then when they are back with their people, they mock them, they make fun of them, they say they're above them or not part of them and all these things. This is one of the main things that we really have to look at and say, this is Allah explaining the traits and characteristics of these people. It fits perfectly with them. For the people who are in, for the people who are out completely, we have to look back and say, wow, was this some of the things that I was doing? And for those of us who are in, we know that's the things that we were doing. We know it. We don't need to lie about it. We don't need to try to hide this thing. We're saying that this was us and we've seen it, we recognize it, and we say, we're not part of this no more. We're not going to be like that no more. This type of monafik type of approach. But for the people that are hanging on the fence, for the people halfway in, halfway out, or for the people who they say they're out, but you know, they're still stuck in somewhat, you have to look at that and say that this is a thing that I don't want to be a part of. You don't want to keep going on having these type of characteristics to be associated with you. You have to pick a side and you have to be clear about it. And for the people that are steeped, that are hardcore, people who are in TMOA and are feeling like they're upon the right way, open up the Quran, read even Surah Al-Baqarah. If you read Surah Al-Baqarah, this story is the entire surah really is describing you to a T. It's describing those people. It's describing even the groups of people, the people who have left, the people who are on the fence, and the people who are stuck in. All three of those groups are represented in Surah Al-Baqarah, as we will see going forward. But that's the extent of what I really have for tonight. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns, statements, anything to add from anyone? Going once, going twice. Let's see if I have something here. If not, then we'll wrap it up, inshallah. Okay. All right, that's it. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.